The idea that you're supposed to go around eating sandwiches and then you die. There is a joke in that, for sure.
That's beautiful. It's almost a poem.
You're a poem.
Oh, thanks, Pete. Death and stand-up comedy. We've got a great matchup for our first episode. Two great topics in their own right, but the task of finding the confluence of these has fallen to my inaugural guest, Pete Holmes. It's something I very much look forward to dissecting. My name is Victor M. Sweeney, and I suppose I ought to welcome you to my podcast and let you know what you're in for. In my years as a mortician and funeral director, I've found that people are utterly fascinated by death. It's a bit of a taboo topic, especially talking about dead bodies or what happens in cremation or why a casket costs so much damn money. But in one-on-one situations, people don't hold back. They aren't as worried about the taboo. And I generally get some pretty out there questions. This podcast is a place where we can talk openly about death. We don't have to be afraid of it. We can talk about spirituality or the practicalities of the funeral industry and so much more. And really, we want to explore the overlap between death and the fabric of everyday life. It's important to me that you are involved in the show too. So to that end, I'd welcome you to email me any death-related questions you might have, spiritual or serious or silly, to the email address deathandpodcast@gmail.com, or through the form on our website, deathandpodcast.com, spell out A-N-D. And I hope to answer your questions in a future Q&A episode. And I'd ask you to please subscribe to Death and wherever you are listening or watching right now, and help us just spread the word in any way you see fit. Leave a review of the show, or simply just tell a friend about our great new podcast where a handsome young mortician shares more than you ever wanted to know about death, the deceased, the funeral business, and much, much more. So death and stand-up comedy is really a subject very close to my heart, strangely enough. As maybe some of you have heard, my best friend took his life about 6 years ago. And when he was employed, he was a comic. He did a little bit of stand-up. Mostly, Alex specialized in improv comedy. And when he was training in Chicago, one of the rules that they kind of lived by for improvisational comedy sketches was what he called the truth in comedy. That comedy has to have a sort of verisimilitude. It has to be kind of real in order to be funny. Can't be too off the wall. It has to be a little bit grounded in daily life. And one of my thoughts as we booked Pete Holmes for this show was that the truth in comedy, we might even just change that a little bit and say there's even truth in death. That our thoughts about death have to be grounded in some ways in reality. For us to accept them and learn to deal with them and grapple with them, they can't be entirely out in the ether. They also have to be something real that maybe we experience inside of ourselves every day. I guess in some ways, we're all kind of improvising here in this life. And there's no reason that death and comedy shouldn't overlap. So I'm excited to look into this episode and just find out where in the world that is, because they sure seem like opposites. With that, let us bring on our very first guest. My guest today on Death and is the tremendously funny Pete Holmes, who was kind enough to squeeze us into his busy schedule to chat about death, a theme that comes up frequently in his stand-up and in his own podcast, You Made It Weird. I appreciate you just taking the risk and talking to me, who is a nobody.
Oh, don't say that.
It's true, though.
Look at your beautiful suit.
Thank you. I wear it for work.
Well, no, I understand what you mean in the sense that it's not the Joe Rogan experience.
No.
It's actually a core value of mine to acknowledge your extreme not nobodiness, meaning what an absurd assumption that somebody with, let's say, millions of followers is somebody, and that you, Victor Sweeney, who may not be there yet or may not ever want to or get there, whatever.
That's more true.
Is nobody. That is, what's the word? I guess I'll say philosophically upsetting to me, and in direct opposition with my worldview, whether or not I always uphold that value, but that is a value of mine.
See, I have kind of the opposite thing where, I mean, you bury enough bodies and you talk about enough lives, and you're like, I mean, it's not nihilism. It's maybe related to it a little bit, but you're like, everyone's special, but no one's any more special than anybody else.
Sure. But how is that the opposite?
I don't know. I mean, I guess
I'm saying the same thing.
Yeah. Just everybody is, but sometimes I lean too hard into the nobody is special thing, but that's okay. Nobody's more special. How about that? Maybe tell me about this. Maybe we get in too deep right away. We get into deep water. Tell me, what is your relationship to death, Pete?
I love it. I really do like this sort of stuff. My relationship to death, look, there's no way to say this other than saying it. I am I'm going to say aggressively spiritual, but not religious person. And every single day, yesterday, for example, I was in the car for 5 hours. And I think for the entirety of that 5 hours, I was listening to my teacher, Rupert Spira, who's a non-dual teacher. And when I say my friend, it's just because we're not like close chums, but I think of him as my friend. And that is almost exclusively not just about death, but I would say about the big picture. I'm one of those people, Victor, maybe like you, that sort of goes around wondering why we're not talking about it, why we're not exploring it. But really the other side of death, we could say is life. And both deserve our dissection. We could talk about death and what that means, but we also don't talk enough about life, the phenomenon of life, what we mean by life, what life is. And people, are very quick to say what death is when they don't even understand what life is, or could even understand what life is.
Right. Like you wouldn't say death is the descent into nothingness, because life is an awful lot. And death is way too related to life to be anything, to be nothing. It's got to be
that's interesting.
Something.
I would say from this, okay, I'm also going to say this once up top. Almost everything that I say, the teacher that I resonate with the most, his name is Rupert Spira, Spira. And if you'd like to hear somebody who abides in this place, and that really is the teaching, not just explaining it, which is what I'll be doing, please look up Rupert Spira on YouTube. The book of his that I recommend the most is called Being Aware of Being Aware. That being said, I will do my best. I think from the perspective of the mind, death is a descent into nothingness, but we could break that down, no-thingness. It's a way of saying it's consciousness without an object, meaning It's awareness only aware of itself. And this isn't like that foreign of a territory, meaning every night when we fall asleep, there's the dream state, but then we enter into deep sleep. And deep sleep is timeless. It's no-thingness. You are not there. The concept of Victor, it vanishes. The concept of the world vanishes. And when we awake, it reassembles, for lack of a better term.
I like that.
And I would say that death is probably very similar to that. But the good news here is we don't dread sleep. We don't look at it as a vanishing.
You do it every day.
Or an annihilation. Yeah, exactly. It wasn't Rupert. It was an Indian mystic that says, every night I die and every morning I'm resurrected. But I really think there are so many clues in sleep, in dreaming, to the nature of existence in general. But that is what I would think death is like, meaning from the perspective of the mind that can only know objects. So again, This is Rupert. The mind is infinite consciousness, localizing itself as a finite mind, that it could experience a finite world or seem to experience a finite world.
Sure.
And from that limited perspective, death seems like a void and nothing, and it's quite frightening. But from the perspective of infinite awareness, which is what we really are, nothing has happened, nothing went anywhere, nothing was born, nothing was died, nothing ever changes for infinite eternal awareness.
Yeah, it's the laws of physics, right? Nothing disappears, it just becomes reordered.
Well, it's a bit more extreme than that. That law of physics is acknowledging that something called matter did come into existence. My worldview could most briefly be explained like this. This is God's dream. It's tricky to use the word God for some people. You could say this is awareness's dream.
Right.
So when I say what happens when you die, I would say to you, Victor, what happens when you have a dream at night and I'm in your dream and I die? What happened to me? Well, that's super obvious, isn't it? My only reality was your mind.
Sure.
And when I die, I appear to dissolve back into, let's say, even in the dream, I'm buried and I decompose and I go into the soil. But the soil and the casket and my body were all the same thing. They were the stuff of your mind, which we could call consciousness or awareness. And that's literally what I think is happening
kind of
here.
A divine soliloquism in some ways.
It's close to solipsism.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different. We could get into that, but you're
That's
absolutely...
okay. We don't have to. No. But that's exciting though, because here's the
You're
thing.
hearing me right, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, here's the thing. Like every one of us is going to face death. Everyone's going to do it. I bury people my own age on occasion, and it becomes very clear that like something very different is happening to them than what normally happens to you and I walking around, and just kind of making peace with that, knowing that it's coming, right? Kind of a memento mori, if you will, is really nice. But then you need to also have the other thing, right? You need to have like the memento vitae, right? You need to have like remember life and like think about living, and I don't usually talk about like consciousness or mindfulness. It's not really in the vocabulary of a more traditional Catholic, but certainly there is something to be said about like just ruminating on your end and like knowing that it's nigh and knowing that life is brief and just like not being afraid of it. I think there's so much fear that you see everywhere, and it's just nice not to be afraid.
I agree with everything you're saying. The next, for me, the next step was not just memento mori and living kind of infused with that urgency. And that will make your ice cream tastier, and that will make you more patient in line.
It's got to be more than YOLO though, right? Like it's got to be more than that.
Well,
it's got to be deeper than that. Yeah.
The more than remember that you will die, the death maxim that I hold most dear is die before you die. And you mentioned that you're Catholic. We could say this is being born again, right?
Sure.
This is the idea that Jesus says the grain of wheat needs to crack in order for it to grow.
It needs to fall to the ground and die. Before you become something bigger.
You need to die. Yeah, that's exactly right. You need to, and I would argue that Christ is a word for consciousness or for universal consciousness or for a non-dual consciousness. In all your experience, I wonder what people get wrong about death. What do people assume that they're just way off base about it?
In my experience, I think one of the things that people get wrong about death is that they think it's a lonely sort of event. They're afraid that they're going to have to do it alone. And that's true in some sense, because even if you died with somebody next to you, you each have your own soul or your own consciousness, right? But it's not entirely lonely, because everybody in history that you've ever read about has done it before, right? Everybody who's ever made a history book has done that thing. So like, why should a person like think they're so singular or concern themselves or be afraid of it? And so sometimes, like when I meet with a family, you can just tell that like the spouse who's at the table, maybe the surviving brand new widower, is like very afraid about what's going to happen when they're going to go, because they're sitting at my table, they're talking about these practical hands-on things, and just letting them know, like, it's going to be okay. It's something. I mean, I do 100 of these a year. There are people like me all over the country, and there are people on the receiving end who are doing the dying, and like it's nothing to worry about.
Yeah, Thomas Merton said something similar. He goes,
I like Thomas Merton.
well, yeah, paradoxically, he says, well, he starts from the idea that you do die alone. I like what you said, and we can hold that in one hand. Looking at it the other way, which you also introduced, was we all die alone. And then he says, paradoxically, the salve to that existential loneliness isn't to deny it. It's to go towards that which you think you are that is alone. And when you go into, you could call it your soul or you could call it awareness, but you really go deeper and deeper and deeper into that which you think you are, you recognize that it is the essence of all things. And it sort of inverts and becomes something that you've never been alone. You couldn't do anything alone. And everything and everyone is there with you because everything and everyone is essentially the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, because that's the thing. Like, nobody thinks about living solitarily, right? Nobody thinks that, like, oh, I'm living my life and I'm entirely alone. Like, nobody thinks that way. Even the hermit has the bigger picture in mind, probably because he's a hermit. So, in your kind of last hermetical journey, why you think you'd be alone then is beyond me. Yeah, that's wonderful. I like good job pulling up a Thomas Merton quote. I read The Seven-Story Mountain a couple years ago, but I'd like to read it again with fresher eyes. Well, now I have a question. I have a question for you. So everyone has their own method of executing their job. I have a way of writing an obituary that is different from everyone else's because I'm me, right? I have my own soul, my own consciousness. You are a comedian, and you have your own craft. I've watched your special. It was nighttime, so I couldn't laugh too loud because the kids are sleeping. But
sure.
So you craft jokes. So what's your method in crafting a joke? How do you do it? How does Pete Holmes put a joke together?
Well, the answer sort of breaks down by decade, meaning it's very different when you're starting out than when I do a joke now. I'll start with now. The way that I do a joke now is there's a certain insistence on the joke's part, meaning I can be pretty either lazy or doubtful of a premise. So I'll wait for something to usually show up 2 or 3 times. It's almost like it's knocking on the door and it's like, hey, that's funny.
Yeah.
Hey, that's funny. And then I'll write it down. But even more than something that's funny is I notice that it's something that I feel very, very strongly about. I have a joke, not on the special that you watched, but on the one that we're about to tape. And it's about houses that make you take your shoes off before you come in their house. It actually ties into death because I yell like, death is coming. Like, you can't stop it. You can't stop it with your one little rule because there's something sort of anal retentive, and there is a fear of death in the take your shoes off. Like,
that's right.
I can stop it. I can stop it for me and my family if you take your shoes off. And I say there's shit everywhere. You should eat it and build up an immunity, you coward. That's what I yell.
Your socks are as dirty as your shoes, probably.
Absolutely. And it's on our hands and it's on our pants. And I was sitting on a dirty park bench and now it's on your couch. Give up is the message of that joke. But I was saying that to someone and I realized, and this was the key for me, that I didn't in any way wonder how I felt about the topic. It was just writ large. I was like, I know how I feel about this. And then I go, and I bet I could make it funny. So usually the first step is I would just go on stage armed with the feeling, more than the words, the feeling of I hate when people tell me to take my shoes off, and just the kernel of like, we're all going to die and you can't stop it. And just kind of flipping it on them. Like, you're a coward, fuck you. And it sort of unfolds in all these other ways. So in the case of the shoes off thing, I did write out a couple areas that it could go into. And then I went on stage and saw which ones come out. Because the adrenaline involved in being in front of an audience.
That'll tell you. Yeah.
Well, it'll help you self-edit in the moment. writing in your office is very different from writing in front of a crowd, because the crowd is giving you feedback and they're also putting you on your toes. And, it's like surfing or writing about surfing. It's like surfing, you're going to be a lot more decisive, and it's going
to get you wet.
You'll also be wet in one and not wet in the other.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to trust yourself. And when you've been doing it for over 20 years, which I have, your instincts are pretty good. And then you listen to the recording and you see what worked and didn't work. And then you refine and you refine and you refine and you refine.
But I think that's a really good point, that like having some years under your belt, that instinct plays such a huge role in how you deal with people.
Oh, for sure.
Off of them. I mean, the same thing happens. I just have sad people instead of laughing people.
Right. You killed if they're really re-experiencing the trauma.
I had them really emoting. It was great.
Yeah.
But it's true though. That instinct is so huge in helping you figure out what you ought to do next time. maybe not in the moment, but
yeah. That's true.
Wonderful.
I guess I'm curious, is there anything you're doing to prepare for your death to make it easier on your loved ones? Because you must see some of the red tape that's involved.
I do. Well, I have a will, so that was good. I also have a folder in my file cabinet with all the other pre-planned funerals. So right next to, Jim Johnson is Victor Sweeney's folder. It's alphabetical, so it's a little further back, but it's in there, and I have all of my funeral plans written out. I have my obituary written, which I update every August. I have all my passwords written down and where they go and where I keep the taxes and other business stuff. So that I think is good. I think it's good to just even write down the minutia of what you want done with your dead body, because then my wife doesn't have to guess. She doesn't have to wonder what I might have wanted, because it's all very clear. Yeah. Nor does she have to sit down at the time and be like, all right, how do we summarize Victor's 33 short years? How do we summarize that real quick? We only have about a day and a half to get his obituary together. And instead, I have it all written up. So that is, on the practical side, that's what I've done. And then on the more metaphysical side, as a Catholic, I go to confession every 2 weeks. So I spill my guts to the priest in a box, and I tell him of my dirty, dirty, dirty soul. Clean it up every 2 weeks. So then hopefully when I die, I'll be relatively clean.
Wow.
Yeah. Do you have your obituary written, Pete?
No. I couldn't give a shit about
Oh, see, but here's the thing. I mean, you have to understand. So my obituary is not like a resume. Like those are uninteresting, right? Like,
oh no,
Pete
I
did
didn't
this
think
special,
you
then
were
he did
dumb
that.
for caring.
Oh yeah,
I was just look, it'll be done. I'm out.
So someone will figure it out. But it's kind of nice in this way. It's kind of cathartic because I found I can write down the things that actually matter, right? Like if I left it to somebody else, they'd be like, Victor Sweeney has 24 million views on YouTube, and like that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But like I can write down the things that I believed in and the things that I actually care about, which are not the things that are on the internet. So I think in that way, it might be kind of nice if you sat down and did it. You could just briefly like make a list of like those things that matter, and then I just like put that in a more practical way of like, here's 4 paragraphs about my life. But it's worth doing. I think I could write you obituary. We could sit down and talk about it. I could just doodle it up for you.
I wouldn't mind.
It'd be sweet though. It'd be real short. It'd be Pete Holmes, age something, died in such a place. He didn't give a shit.
He didn't care.
That's verbatim, you guys.
He doubts that you're reading this. This is on the bottom of a parakeet's cage.
Yes, I love it. Yeah. We just crumple this up and use it to start your next charcoal fire.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah. Although maybe when we're older, we'll care more about obituaries. I think old people love reading them. That's their news.
They do. Old people love obituaries.
Yeah, they want to see how it goes.
Yeah. I mean, there's something about it. I don't know. I think it's about like finding your place a little bit, like, and granted I'm in a small town, but all the old people are like, oh, that's so-and-so's cousin, and they kind of like build the family chain and like cut it out, and they
Sure.
Put it in the back of a recipe book, never to see the light of day again. Just something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're starting to understand each other.
All right. Well, here's what I've got. Okay, so this is, I guess this is a philosophical question. Thinking about it broadly, what sort of things make people laugh? Not the things that like make them giggle, but like what underpins what humans think are funny? Like what's the thing beneath the thing about comedy? What makes people laugh?
Well, all entertainment is surprise. So I would say the first key to entertaining is to surprise. And then to make something funny, and this isn't my philosophy, but I do think it's true, is that all jokes are a benign violation, which means it's wrong, but it's not, I guess what we would say is over the line.
Yeah, it's not hurtful.
Well, it is hurtful, but it's not too hurtful.
Yeah, okay, there we go. All right.
Yeah, in fact, if it's not a little bit hurtful, it's probably not going to be that funny. And I would argue that, like even the most sort of safe joke, underneath it, there's something, we're dealing with a bigger issue, and that's why we're laughing about it. I just watched some of Ellen's new special, and she has a thing about parallel parking and the shame when you drive away, when you give up. And I'm like,
yeah, that's a thing.
That what's underneath that joke is being ostracized, being judged, being an outcast, being ruined, being humiliated. You know what I mean?
Sure.
That's essentially a type of murder. And feeling that sort of outcastness. That's very dark, and that's what we're dealing with. And if there isn't something sticky underneath it, like I have a joke where I say, what's the employee discount at the dollar store? Do you think it's just take it? Like that's a very standard joke. And what I think is going on there, one, it's a surprise. Yep. There's a certain novelty.
It subverts your expectations, right?
Well, the joke itself subverts your expectations because it's something that you wouldn't normally think. So that's the sort of like, look at this thought I've had. And I'm applying employee discounts, which is usually something at a different store. And but there is something sort of classist going on there. There's something, you're looking down your nose going like, these stupid stores that are so cheap and filled with junk, and the people that work there, do they even get a discount? There is something a little bit, I'm not saying it's cruel, but what makes it a little spicy and a little bit naughty is there is like a, do you think there's an employee discount there? It's a little bit mean. And I don't think I'm mean. I'm saying the joke is a little bit mean, and that's what makes it worth engaging with. Yeah. And I would say that I think you could do that for almost any joke.
I like that.
That's the violation. You're not supposed to make fun of someone's job.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it seems kind of degenerate a little bit.
Yeah, it is. But it's benign.
Is that what makes it fun?
It is. It's wicked. It's wicked. It's mischievous. But if it was an overt violation, and I said, "Have you seen these pathetic pieces of shit that work at the dollar store?" It's not funny. It's over the line. That might be funny depending on the comedian that said it. But most people would go, "That's not okay." But if I can trick my grandmother to laugh at something that is a little bit cheeky, she would like to be tricked. In the same way that you would like to eat sausage but not watch the slaughter. They want you to trick them into laughing and letting a little piece of their shadow go.
That's wonderful. That's beautiful.
Well, this is a simple one. Are you going to be buried or cremated?
Buried. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Going to go in the ground like my forefathers. Yeah. And just decay and molder away.
Yeah.
And
can I ask why?
I don't know. I think there's something kind of poetic about it. I mean, I guess like there's something poetic about cremation, no doubt. I don't know. I like the idea, I guess, of like looking as if I'm asleep until I just like quietly become a skeleton in the dark.
No, you nailed it. I mean, that's why we call it awake. We want to see if they're going to wake up.
Yeah.
There's so much denial of death in the whole thing. We're going to put you in a suit. We're going to put you on a pillow. We're going to put you in a box to protect you. Then we're going to put you in the ground. But that's what I like about cremation. They're like, shut up, I'm dead.
Yeah, they're like,
Just toast me.
we are gonna boil your effing brains out.
That's
Literally.
right. But that's what makes people sort of turned off by cremation. Is it is so
It's kind of
cold.
violent. It's a little bit violent.
Oh, of course it is. You're gonna people talk about the smell and all of that. It's not looking away. But if you go to India, completely different relationship with death. You go to the burning gods. They just have a pile, like a pyramid of burning corpses. And no, it's not in this. That would be horrifying here. That would be,
Yeah, the
10 o'clock
the closest,
news.
The closest I've ever come to that is in my hometown. There was a barbecue ribs joint, and right next door to it, across the road, was the crematory. And
Wow.
not being able to discern between those two when you drive by is like a little bit unsettling.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right.
But only a handful of people knew about the crematory, so they just assumed it was the ribs.
Hilarious.
But that but yeah,
Soylent Green.
This is it's America. You got to like ease your way in a little bit,
Or just keep pretending like it doesn't really happen.
or that,
Yeah.
or that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. I would love to go around the world and just like see other death ritual.
Sure.
I'm generally a pretty curious person. And like I've seen some shit, Pete. Like I could see a pyramid of burning dead bodies. Like no big deal.
Yeah. I
It's
believe
just probably like 50 more than I'm used to in one spot. No biggie.
There you go.
But no, that's wonderful. Okay. Last question. So I'm a family man. I guess we didn't really introduce myself. I know you have a wife and a daughter. And I have a wife and 4 children.
Oh, well.
And working around death, we talk about death all the time at home. My kids are going to be weird, very death positive little kids. And that's just the reality when your dad's an undertaker. And so my question for you, as someone who works in comedy, does your family think you're funny?
Well, my family actually gets the marrow of what exactly it is that makes me funny, meaning they're going to get the best of the best, which isn't me doing carefully crafted jokes or routines that I've rehearsed and polished. It's just the absurdity and the acknowledgement through silliness with my wife and daughter in real time. We do a lot of laughing. I laugh at them a lot. They laugh at me a lot. But to me, being funny is an exhaustible resource. Being silly is near inexhaustible. You can exhaust it, but it's a lot easier to be silly. And my daughter knows me to be a deeply, deeply silly person. And I think there's a profound life philosophy baked into that. But then there's also a lot of laughing. When my daughter has friends over and I'll mess with them a lot. I love messing with kids.
Yeah.
Leela is always going, he's joking. So I think my wife and daughter get the funniest version of me. None of it would translate to television or stage. But that's what makes it so precious being a member of a family. And not only being silly and having that being celebrated, celebrating and encouraging their silliness.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more of a group activity at home, isn't it? And you get
absolutely,
like
and it's
the inside
nonsense.
jokes and all. Yeah, and it just keeps spiraling out of control. Yeah,
it's very, very silly, and it's very, very stupid even.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think it's good when things are stupid a little bit.
Oh sure.
Like a little bit of silliness in a funeral is very nice.
I believe that.
Just lightens the mood.
Well, that's another answer for why we laugh is often there's a tension that needs to be addressed. And in situations like a funeral or where, let's say, something weird is happening at a wedding, let's say even better, you're at a wedding and the bride isn't there, like she's missing. Whatever
it is. It's
Very
true.
good.
It's true. Yeah.
But let's say it's supposed to be a wedding. There's an expectation that the officiant will say something. There's also an expectation that the officiant will say something funny because people are literally feeling a physical tension that will be relieved when he goes like, maybe she thought it was Eastern Standard Time. It doesn't even have to be funny.
Yeah.
People just want to laugh. in the same way that ducks, after an altercation, want to flap their wings. They want to let out stress and tension. And that's another reason why we laugh. Monkeys tickle each other. Like, there's an evolutionary need to remove tension through laughter. And it's not just a benign violation. Sometimes it's just, I gotta laugh. So I'll tickle you.
We'll leave it there. Pete wants to tickle me. No, that's wonderful. Well, okay. So now we're going to get into the last little bit of the show here. We're going to I want you to write down. It works well if you write it. You could just wing it too, but I'm going to write it.
Sure, I'll write it.
One sentence of where we think death and stand-up comedy meet. Where's the confluence? How do they come together? How are they kind of the same thing? All right, Pete, are you satisfied with your little blurb?
It's what happened.
Perfect.
It's what happened.
Okay.
I said, when we laugh or behold beauty or love, we are consumed and vanish, and for a brief moment forget ourselves, dying before we die.
I like that. That's wonderful. That's beautiful. That's that's almost a poem.
You're a poem.
Oh, thanks, Pete. Oh, I am a poem. I'm a little tickly poem.
You're a poem.
All right. Here's what I have. I have death is the great joke. It is the thing behind the tricks. It's the thing that tricks us. It is bad and yet good. It is sad and yet silly.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Yeah, in a sense, death is sort of like a punchline of sorts to a cosmic joke.
It is. It's kind of like the most serious thing out there. So, and it disturbs people. So, yeah, it's perfect joke fodder.
Yeah, it's certainly a benign violation. The idea that you're supposed to be and go around eating sandwiches and then you die. There is a joke in that for sure.
I don't know. I'm there's maybe I'll do an episode on it someday. I'll get like a sex therapist and we'll talk about where like sex and death overlap.
Oh yeah, the little death.
Yeah, it's there. And then
yeah, but that's in my answer too. When we laugh or behold beauty or love.
So it's all there. It's all wrapped up, isn't it?
Sex and laughter and a sunset or climbing a rock or, like anything that takes you out of your finite mind helps you taste your infinite nature. Yeah. And in that moment where you are not, but consciousness is, or your awareness is, that is a type of death. And that is what I think happens when we die. So I think one of the reasons we're drawn to comedy isn't just to laugh. It's to remove everything from us that can be removed. In that moment when a joke is exploding in your brain and you go away in the same way you go away during deep sleep. And when you go away, everything that can be removed from you is removed. Yeah. And yet it's the blank paper it's all written on remains. I think that's a type
joke.
Of death.
You're totally outside yourself.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Pete, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a real pleasure just getting to talk to you.
My pleasure.
I was a little nervous because
I hope not.
You're kind of famous, nervous. But I kept reminding myself, like, Victor, you talk to a lot of people. So it's just one more person. And you're lovely. You're wonderful to talk to. And you're extremely thoughtful and thought-provoking. And I'll tell you what, if Death and is a game, it's a little bit of a game, like you play the game so well. Because that's what I want. I want guests who kind of walk between, right, the silly and the sad and aren't afraid to talk about death, but also like live real well. And I think you're just killing it, Pete. I think you're just doing so well. So just thank you for joining me. Thanks for playing our little game of death and thank you foremost for your time. I know you're extremely busy, but just thank you for your time and your talent and your treasure. You are a treasure, my friend. Thank you.
Oh, it was my pleasure. And you're a poem. You're a ticklish poem.
There we go. Well, my friends, this concludes our first episode of Death and I want to personally thank you for listening or watching. I'd love it if you subscribed, and there's plenty more information and links for you to explore in our show notes. including the links to everything that our new friend Pete Holmes is up to, which is a lot. Please connect with us on social media platforms and send in your death-related questions to deathandpodcast@gmail.com or use the contact form on the website, deathandpodcast.com. I'm grateful to have you along for this adventure. And telling a friend about the new podcast, Death And, is honestly the most helpful thing you can do to help me grow the show. I'm Victor M. Sweeney. See you next time.